Hi, it's Alex here from Ninja Teacher, and in this video I want to talk to you about 3 methods for getting a teaching English job in Vietnam. So teaching English in Vietnam is a great way to live abroad, travel and earn a good income. You can earn about $1,400 to $2,000 per month with 2 to 3 times lower living expenses than countries like the US or the UK. So I'm going to cover these 3 methods and also talk about the effectiveness of each one. So if you have a passport from a native English speaking country such as the US or UK and a bachelor's degree in any subject, then these methods can apply to you. If you're a non-native English speaker, it may still be possible, but it may be a bit more difficult. You need an IELTS certification, and in general there is a preference for native English speakers in Vietnam. Okay, so the first method is to take a TEFL certification online before you leave to Vietnam. So a TEFL certification is a kind of course that you take to get certified to teach English abroad. And a TEFL certification and a bachelor's degree in any subject is required by the Vietnamese government in order to get a work permit and work here legally. So with doing a TEFL certification online before you come, that allows you to complete the course in your own time while you're still in your home country. So you could do a self-paced TEFL course. Maybe it'll take you about a month, maybe 1 to 3 months if you're doing it part-time while you're working, and then you'll have your TEFL certification. So this method involves applying for jobs from abroad while you're in your home country. So after you've taken your TEFL certification, then you would reach out to employers, send out your resume and apply for jobs. Ideally, you would get a job offer after interviewing online, and then you'd fly out to Vietnam and start working in your job. Method number 2 involves also taking an online TEFL certification from home, but then flying out to Vietnam to actually apply for jobs while you're in the country. This way you'd do in-person interviews with schools. You'd actually go to the school, you would obviously apply and reach out, and then you'd set up an in-person interview with the hiring manager of that school. So after going through the interview process, you'll get a job offer, and then you'll start working at the school. Then the third method would be to come to Vietnam to take an in-class 4-week-long TEFL training course. With this method, you would fly to Vietnam, take the in-person training, and then after that, you apply for jobs. Like the second method, you'd go through in-person interviews, get job offers, and then land a job. So those are the 3 methods. So now let's talk about some of the pros and cons and the effectiveness of each of these methods. So which out of those methods do you think might be the most effective? Well, in our experience, it goes from 1 to 3, with 1 being the least effective and then 3 being the most effective, and I'll talk to you about why that is. So method number 1 involves getting your TEFL certification online, and there are a few factors here that are worth considering. The first one being that TEFL courses vary in quality quite significantly, which can have a number of implications. The first one being employers know that. They know that not all TEFL courses are created equally, and that means employers are going to look at the specific course that you took and assess whether they think it's actually a good course or not. Things that influence the quality of the course include things like, does it include lesson plan submissions? Do you get feedback on lesson plans? Because being able to put together a good lesson plan is key to actually starting out as an English teacher. You have to know how to put together a good lesson plan that will be effective in the classroom, and many online courses don't even have any submissions of lesson plans and feedback on those so that you know you're on the right track. Another factor is that text-only courses aren't very good at giving you an understanding of what a real classroom looks like. So if an online TEFL course only has text and maybe like a quiz at the end to assess your knowledge, that's really not going to prepare you really well. So it's a good idea to look out for courses that have a lot of video footage, real examples of classrooms, so you can see how it's actually done and you can learn how to implement that based on what you see, what you observe, and then put that into practice. And also things like, does the course involve live sessions with a trainer, hopping on an actual video call, working through your lesson plans with the trainer, getting some live online training. These are all factors to consider with the online TEFL course, and because not all of them offer this, schools can be wary of certain TEFL courses and how well they prepared you to actually have the knowledge and skill set to be an effective teacher. And then another factor is that most don't include any real practical experience. And that means if you're going into a job as a first-time teacher, you don't have any experience to put on your resume. There's a few ways to sort of get around this. Some courses might have you submit videos of yourself teaching and get feedback on that. That's one of the things we offer in our online TEFL course, along with a lot of those other things like the video training and live sessions and feedback on your lesson plans. So those are all things that you can look out for in an online TEFL course that will boost your chances of getting hired from abroad. Now, another big thing is that hiring a teacher from abroad is a bit of a risk for schools because they don't know if you're going to come to Vietnam and then not really cope and not get settled effectively into Vietnam, and then they've invested all this time in hiring a teacher from abroad, you know, getting them over, you know, they've waited all the time to wait for you to arrive and start, and then if it doesn't work out, that's a big loss for them, right? It's also a bit harder for employers to see what kind of a person you are through online interviews. Interviewing in person really gives you the chance to show that you are a good candidate for the job. And another thing to consider is that schools might also try and get teachers that they hire abroad to work in less favorable locations or less desirable locations. Because there's a preference for hiring teachers who already are in country, that means they want to offer the more desirable locations to those teachers, and then they might offer you a job in a district that's further outside of the city, in a less popular area perhaps, because they know that teachers that are abroad will be more likely to accept a position in these locations because that's what they get offered. And they won't need to come to Vietnam to interview in person, so they are more likely to accept an offer in a location that's not quite as good. Now, moving on to method 2, and all the things that apply to method 1 with regards to the online TEFL course are also true here. However, with this case, you are going to be in the country when you interview, and that's going to give a lot of benefits. Number one, the school knows that you're in the country and ready to start straight away. So usually there's positions that open up and they want to fill them as quickly as possible. So you're there, you're ready to go. That puts you at the top of a pile of resumes because schools don't want to wait several months until you get ready to fly over to Vietnam. Secondly, they know that you've arrived in Vietnam and you've adjusted at least to a certain degree, that you're settled into Vietnam, that you've handled the arrival in a new country, and this isn't something that they're going to worry about because, again, if you are coming from abroad, there's the risk that someone will arrive, maybe not like it, or just be a bit overwhelmed and decide, okay, this isn't for me. So there's a much lower risk on the school's part with hiring a teacher who is already in the country. It also gives you the chance to do well in an in-person interview. If you go in and the academic manager or the HR that's doing the interview with you gets a good impression from you, then obviously that's going to help a lot, and it's much easier to do that in an in-person interview, I believe. Okay, so let's talk about method 3 then, and that's flying to Vietnam, taking an in-country TEFL class, and then applying for jobs after that. So the big benefit of this is, again, you're in the country, so the same benefits as method 2. And then there are a number of added benefits of doing an in-class TEFL course. Number one being that you're training 4 weeks in the classroom, so you're getting a lot of practical experience. Schools really highly value that. If it's a good quality in-class TEFL course, you're going to come out of that with actual teaching skills that you can really demonstrate in the classroom, and schools know that you've been through 4 weeks of intensive training, and they really are going to value that when they're looking at your resume, looking at someone maybe who doesn't have any experience and only an online TEFL. When they're comparing, that's really going to give you a step up. They'll see that you have those 4 weeks of practical training, and that's really going to give you a leg up in interviews when they see that you actually have some classroom experience. In addition to that, a good quality in-class TEFL course should have at least 6 hours of actual teaching practicum with real learners in real schools. So you'll go out to different schools and do practical teaching as part of your TEFL course, and that gives you real experience in the classroom in Vietnam. So you can put that on your resume, show schools that you have at least a little bit of experience teaching learners, and that goes a long way, especially if it's spread out throughout that 4 weeks. You know, some TEFL courses only have, you know, a one-day boot camp at the end of the course, which I don't think is as effective. But if you're doing these practical classes throughout the week, as well as observations at different schools, that means over this 4 weeks of intensive training, plus those hours in real classrooms, you can put all that on your resume, and schools really value that. So then the combination of having that 4-week TEFL class with the practical training, as well as being in the country so that you can interview in person, that really does make this probably the most effective method out of the 3. This is why we can currently offer guaranteed job placement for those that take our in-class TEFL program in Vietnam, because we know that the combination of the quality training plus being in the country will ensure that you get job offers from good schools in Vietnam. And the majority of our Vietnam TEFL program graduates get a job within 2 weeks of starting the job placement process after they've finished the course. Because schools do value these factors, the job placement process goes very quickly. So does this mean that only people who take method 3 will be successful? No, of course not. There are plenty of people who have started teaching English in Vietnam with an online TEFL course, and I've made videos in the past talking about the benefits of in-class TEFL courses, and sometimes people comment and say, well, I got a job with an online TEFL course, and you know, this is not true when I talk about the benefits of in-person programs. And yes, it's definitely possible. I would say if you're the kind of person that is willing to kind of do it on your own a little bit more, then you could take an online TEFL course. As I mentioned, there are going to be a lot of benefits to actually coming out to Vietnam and interviewing in person. If you're not willing to do that, you can try apply from abroad, but if you're not getting job offers, that's probably why. A good quality online TEFL course can prepare you with the foundations to teach English abroad, and a lot of schools will develop you as you go as a teacher. So as long as they're willing to hire you and you're willing to put in the work as you teach to progress, that can definitely be an option. On the other hand, if you're drawn to the idea of doing an in-class course so that you feel like you can be more confident in the classroom, and because it's highly valued by employers, then yes, I would say an in-class course is the way to go. Another benefit is that you get to meet other people while you arrive, get support from the company that helps you move to Vietnam. And while a lot of online TEFL companies will advertise that they help you with assisting with the job, it is a lot to move to a new country, and to have a team of people that can actually help you arrive in the country, get settled in, assist you with everything that you need, like preparing your documents, get in-person orientation, just help you out with all the little things along the way, then an in-person program is probably a really good bet for you. Okay, so I think those are the main points that I wanted to hit. If you have any questions, leave a comment below. I'm just walking down the street here. There's some photo shoots going on over here. So this is what I wanted to share based on the knowledge that we have and the statistics that we have after helping over 1,000 people move to start teaching English in Vietnam. So I hope that helps in making your decision on how to get started teaching English in Vietnam. Stay tuned for more videos about life and teaching English in Vietnam, and I'll speak to you soon. Peace. Say hello for the video.
Yes. Hello, guys.
Hi.